Well, grace and peace. The Lord bless you, everybody. You all hop in and hop on and let me know you can hear me okay. And then, whoop, well, I can hear me okay. So that means y'all can hear me okay. Go ahead and hit the share button and begin tagging people there in the comments, inviting them to be a part of tonight's discussion and conversation. I've got a special guest that's going to be on with us, and then directly after this, we're going to be on Clubhouse for a Q&A. So again, go ahead and hit that share button and begin tagging people in the comments and inviting them to coming to be with us. We're at 30 people right now. Let's get our numbers up, and then we'll be bringing our guest in to talk to us tonight about something that I think is of significant importance for us to discuss and to get an understanding of. We have an assignment to bring a measure of safety back into the sanctuary. That's what the whole idea of a sanctuary is. What makes it a sanctuary is that it is safe, and where we have some unaddressed cultures and dynamics, even within the pulpit, that we may be unaware of, things that we have just accepted as a part of our culture. It's not safe. Grace and peace to you. All right, I see you coming in. See you hopping on. Once you're on, the 36 of you on right now, go ahead and tag and share. All right, everybody do that. When you come in, speak, say something. Don't just come in and sit there and watch. Say something. Let us know you're in. Let us know you're on, and we'll be beginning in just a few minutes. If you have not watched the past couple of conversations that we have had on the subject, if you have not, all right, let's see. If you have not listened to or watched the last couple of conversations we've had on this discussion of healing, with Dr. Jamie Perryman, who is a spirit-filled neuroscientist and master of public health. And then we had a conversation with Dr. Shonda Reynolds, a licensed clinical psychologist. I want to encourage you to go back and watch that. I assure you it is going to be a blessing to you. These conversations we are deliberately having in an attempt to make normal these conversations in the church, conversations that have historically had somewhat of an estranged relationship one with another. The relationship between theology and psychology have for some time been kept as two completely different conversations and constructs. And we're endeavoring to bridge that gap so that there can be a wider approach to ministry and understanding of the spirit, soul, and body. I'm just going down my friends list, clicking send to invite people. And I want you to do the same. All right. We are at 93 people. Let's get up to 100 people. And then we will be rolling and going live tonight. All right, we're at 109. There we go. So a couple of things before we bring our guest on, who is a subject matter expert with us tonight, who in 2009, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when I bring her up to the front. Matter of fact, we'll probably wait till she comes on. But she has been an instructor of psychology at various institutions, Virginia State, Virginia Union. She's been a court psychologist and has just trailblazed in this particular field as an apostle who is set and assigned to that mountain of influence. I've been saying this for some time with 131 people. Everybody hit the share button. I have been saying for some time that what revival looks like, when revival hits the church, when revival really hits the kingdom of God, it is not just a set of services. Now, I believe in revival encounters, but revival is when God's people, when the people of God began to take dominion in the various mountains of influence around the world. And where we are in time, hear me prophetically, where we are in time, time is requiring and demanding that prophetic voices, apostolic voices, go into the systems of the world and turn those systems of the world, the kingdoms of the world, infiltrate them, that they may become the kingdoms of our God. And so we are seeing men and women of God that are dominating in these various spheres of influence and in these various areas, and are in them as apostles and as prophets, in the same way that God sends Moses into a system. He's raised in an Egyptian system, raised as a prince. In that system, God brings him out of it after he has learned all of the ways, all of the mind, all of the skills, all of the abilities of that system. He comes out of it. For 40 years, he's detoxed from any of the contaminants of it, and then is sent back into it and is able to use what he learned in those systems to deliver God's people through those systems. And prophetically, that is where we are in time. And we are going to see, hear me, not just men and women of God beginning to rise in these systems. We are going to begin to see, in particular, in the time we are in the earth, women really coming to the forefront of the stage in terms of leadership and in terms of escorting God's people out of the space that we have found ourselves in. And it seems as though this is a pattern we see even throughout the lens of Scripture. The prophet Jeremiah says, the voice of the Lord said, I would that I had a lodge of wayfaring men. He said, but these men have all gotten caught up in foolishness and have adulterous hearts. He said, so call for these women that are skilled to penetrate the heart of this nation and this people. Listen, if you want to ensure that you are always a part of these types of conversations and that you do not miss these types of conversations, I want you to text the word integrate. It's there on your screen to the number 54244. All right. Text the word integrate to the number 54244. We've got a retreat coming up later on this year. We'll be talking to you about that. Of course, we have to push it back with some date conflicts, but it's going to be a space that you do not want to miss, where again, these two spheres of thought and schools of thought, disciplines, psychology and theology, will find themselves bridge to really bring healing to our people. We are spirit, soul, and body, and you cannot be a human being void of any of those three aspects of your tripart being. So go ahead, text the word integrate to 54244. All right. Tonight we have my dear sister from another mister, born of another womb, but cut from the same heart of God, with us tonight. And she is an apostle of the Lord, one of the widest thinkers that you will find and that you will ever experienced. If you have not encountered her ministry, you've been under a rock. And we're going to get that rock off you tonight. Glory to God. It's 170 of you on. Hit the share button and tag 3 people in the comments very quickly. I'm going to share with you why we have this particular woman of God tonight for this conversation. My sister, I know you just came out of prayer. Thank you for hopping on and being with us tonight.
I'm glad to be on, but I'm telling you, we're treading dangerous waters.
Yes, we are. And you know, I don't know that we would be apostles and or prophets if we did not tread such waters.
Absolutely.
You know, and God graces and anoints those who He has graced and anointed for
Amen.
this, you know, these particular kinds of conversation, and broader than just the conversation, the work that these conversations bring to the surface. In 2009, those of you that are watching, Apostle Hyman completed her dissertation on narcissism and authoritarianism among African American seminarians. All right, that was a lot from a tongue. All right, narcissism and authoritarianism amongst African American seminarians, and so we're going to get into that conversation a bit tonight. You want to tag your pastor, all right? Tag your pastor and tag every pastor that is on your
Lord.
friends list. It ain't no need for us having a conversation in the forest. If the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. So tag every pastor you know, tag your
Lord.
friends and those that are part of the body of Christ and those at large. Apostle Hyman, Dr. Hyman, we want to have this conversation tonight. And then right after we finish, let me say this. You all meet us on Clubhouse. Apostle Hyman is going to do a time of Q&A on Clubhouse. So as soon as we log off of here, come over to the Safe House Clubhouse and meet us there. So, Dr. Hyman, define for us narcissism clinically. And the reason I want you to do that is because a lot of these diagnoses have become just buzzwords that media, mainstream media, social media just quickly places on people. Everybody's a narcissist, gaslighting, clinically depressed, all of these terms that, you know, our Google scholars have given over to us. And so talk to us, tell us, what is narcissism clinically?
This idea, thank you, Bishop, my brother. This idea of narcissism, like most of what we do, even in terms of our beliefs and faith, finds itself rooted in this kind of Greek mythological culture, where Narcissus leans over to the pond or the river, or whatever it is, and sees his own image and falls in love with his image and kind of falls over. But you're right, it is kind of a buzzword that we use kind of overall to say the person is self-absorbed. However, it is important to know that all of us have a bit of narcissism. In fact, when we are born, we are purely narcissists because everything is geared to getting our needs met, getting attention as infants. And so there's a healthy narcissism that allows us to have healthy self-esteem, to bounce back and be resilient when we have these ego blows or losses or traumas. There's a healthy narcissism that will allow us to look for out for our own self-interest and self-preservation. However, when narcissism becomes clinical, it is something that is ingrained in the personality. In fact, the personality kind of forms itself around it. And so when narcissism is clinical, for the most part, we put it as NPI, or narcissistic personality disorders. So it's one of the several types of personality disorders that's not as clear cut as the rest of them. But typically you will see that the person will have an inflated sense of their own importance or their own worth, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, a deep need to be almost venerated, if you will. And image for them is everything. Usually with such, they have troubled relationships, a lot of breached and broken relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. That's real dangerous among the prophetic, because those kind of people will just tear down everything and not be able to put themselves in the stead of those who they're coming against. But it is kind of a masking, and the mask is really from themselves. That's the interesting part, Bishop, because behind the mask of intellect, charisma, many of them are very charismatic. They have winning or so it seems personality until they get you in that web. They're gifted. They just have a myriad of skills many times. Many of them manipulative. But behind that mask of extreme confidence or competence, so they like to appear, lies a very fragile self-esteem that is very vulnerable to the slightest criticism, the slightest injustice. They almost feel like, how dare you? You know, like this can happen to everybody, but not me. Some of them, when we talk in terms of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, that's the manual that the system has made to actually do a diagnosis. And so we got to have at least 5 of those in order to be considered that. But we look at certain things in terms of how the narcissism manifests itself. There's always a connection with self-regard. And underneath is this feeling of ineffectiveness, unworthiness, inferiority. That's what's under it. And so the core of the personality as a child has begun to wrap itself around a concept of self, or a concept of self that has been ill-defined. We learn who we are by our parents, by our family, the nuclear family. And so we learn these self-concepts from the external world. But in the life of the narcissist, particularly if there's trauma, not enough guidance, not enough attention, not enough of good social examples in front of them, that part of them doesn't develop. And so they'll kind of morph into who they think people need them to be. So really they become an image rather than authentically a person. Sometimes they have excessive regard with respect of feelings of superiority. The arrogance is usually off the chain, grandiosity, and again, a lack of empathy for others. So we need at least 5 or so of these. Grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupied with unlimited fantasies of success, power, wealth, beauty, brilliance, requires excessive admiration and loyalty. He or she believes that they are special and unique and can only be or should be associated with high status people or high status institutions. This is starting to sound familiar to some people already. They have a sense of entitlement, all right, that is unreasonable. The expectations are unreasonable. They expect favorable treatment or automatic compliance with expectations, with or without relationship. They are interpersonally exploitive. Now, this is a key one for me. That is, they take advantage of people and situation towards their own end. In other words, everything that they do, even if it appears to be service driven, it is basically to use that person to supply their need, that narcissistic supply, so that they keep feeling like the image that they portray. Again, the lack of empathy. You will find very often they are very envious of others and believe that everybody is jealous of them. All right. They may show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes towards others that are injurious. And so usually if they got about 5 good ones of those, I mean, they are horrible to work for. They are horrible to work for. We just finished an administration that if you did not prove loyal to them, if you did not serve his interest, you just got fired. I mean, just no empathy whatsoever. People are literally for them something to own, property to own, and so they also get this surge, if you will, of energy and narcissistic supply by attacking other people or coming for other people or drawing those people to them. Join my organization of other people who have power and status. So, you know, their thing was, I took him down. Okay, well, I took Sinegal down. Well, I challenged Hyman and I took her down. And they may only feel like that to themselves, but it again to get that narcissistic supply, so that fuels those underlying feelings of insecurity, inferiority, and not being worthy, and not being properly structured, and not feeling safe within that nuclear family.
Wow. Some of y'all are right now, you all are trying to be diagnosticians, and you diagnosing folks in your mind right now.
That's why I say they already.
You're writing down names. Oh, this one, this one, this one. So let me ask this, Apostle Hyman, is then, and you kind of touched on it a bit, is this personality disorder a result of developmental trauma, broken attachment systems, or is it a result of some type of biological imbalance, chemical imbalance?
Usually with the personality disorders, you know, because we're born with temperament. We're not born with personality. Personality.
Y'all put that in the comments. Type that in the comments. Born with temperament.
Yes, you kind of come out with your temperament.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
We're not really born with personality. Personality develops around biological factors, as you have mentioned, develops around temperament, and then personality begins to develop around that based on social environment, rearing, the type of parenting. It may be trauma informed. It may be, you know, it's not hard to get a narcissist and it's 10 people in the family, and you the middle baby and can't get nothing, you know. So all of those things that we need socially, the security, the reinforcement that we need to develop self-esteem and self-concept, that usually comes out of that family structure. And if it is a little rough, and you know, the person doesn't get that, then they're always, you know, they'll almost morph themselves into somebody else to get that. Sure. But that's really not who they are. And if they don't get no acceptance, then man, the rage. And so most narcissists have a rage that is just like, whoa. And when you insult them or any kind of way damage that image, because the image is not just to people. Remember, the image is to themselves, because they don't know who they are. So they have to become what they think other people will admire and affirm. That's why many times they are going to gravitate, or they'll make their way violently to places and positions of honor and respect, or running it, or being in charge, or being the HNIC, or whatever, N go there, W or whatever, whatever goes there. And so they are attracted to the stage. One of the other things that I failed to mention is many times they are, because you could be a covert narcissist. And a covert narcissist, usually just, we would describe them almost as a loner, as being boring, kind of like dull. And they're the people who serve and who give in order to get narcissistic supply. To say that if I don't do this, the whole thing is going to fall apart. Everything is on me. And even their service is self-absorbed. Those are covert narcissists. They may not want the attention as much as they want the credit, and they want to enable everything around them to pour need, that need into them. The covert narcissists, the overt narcissists, they're flamboyant. You're going to see flamboyance either in their makeup, their hair, their attire, or their behavior.
Wow.
They have got to be like Narcissus in this pool, always looking at themselves. And so you will see all kind of pictures. And social media is fueling culturally the narcissism that is prevalent in the culture here.
So two things I want to ask based on what you said. You said the image is not just to the outside world, but it's to themselves, right?
Yes, it's an image.
So is a narcissist aware? Is it conscious? Are they aware that they are narcissists, or of their narcissistic behavior, the injury that narcissistic behavior is causing? And then number two, can a person be narcissistic? Have these, and I guess you've really already answered that, because you said to some degree all of us have narcissistic tendencies. So just that first question, since it's not just an image to the outside world, but to themselves, are they aware of the damage, the injury, the lack of safety that is created in their relationships as a result of those personality traits?
Many times on a conscious level, no. They are not conscious of it. You get yourself a good narcissist, and if you say to a narcissist, "You hurt me. What you said injured me," they may appear at first to be, okay. If they've learned some skill, you can get out of there without an explosion. But then the fuming that they do afterwards, and then they'll flip on you, be like, "Oh, I thought we was okay," and then now they're spewing it, or they're waiting in lack, to get you. The vindictiveness, they have to take you down to recover from their narcissistic injury. And so many times, even as you tell a narcissist, "This is not working for me," or "This is bothering me," watch it every time, just about, unless they have had some skills taught to them. They are going to flip that thing. And when they flip it, they have become now the victim.
Right.
Now they're spewing it at you. So either that will take them into a rage, or they will go along, and as soon as they think about it, they will ruminate and begin to seethe inside, and then they will blame you. If they go off, they're going to blame you for triggering them. They're going to blame you for their behavior, because they don't have a great capacity. And maybe some of this could be neurological, Bishop. It could be right frontal lobe damage, or area in the frontal lobe that never fully developed, which we see in things like ADHD, sometimes even in some sociopathic behaviors, the kind of impulsive things. But that right frontal lobe is also responsible for self-reflection, for insight, and they tend not to have very good insight. When it is insightful, even then they got to be the best at being the worst. I'm the worst person walking. I'm chief Here we go, Paul. I'm chief among sinners. I'm okay. I'm the biggest hole in the world. Okay. I mean, even if you got to be the best at being the worst, they're self-taught. So it takes a long time for many of them, if you can get people to stay with them that long, to begin to develop the ability to have insight to say, this is my piece of this. This is how I damaged it. And this is how I'm going to fix it. Many times they will go into shame, and their shame will send them, particularly if they're covert, their shame will send them into hiding, and they will just go and isolate. And then they may go into a depression.
Y'all hit the share button. It's going to be one of those comments. We hadn't even gotten into our discussion yet.
Oh God.
She just laying some groundwork, giving us some framework. As I'm listening to you, Apostle Hyman, I'm not just, seeing perhaps people, individual self. I'm seeing an institution. I'm seeing the system that is and has become at least in my experience, the African American Pentecostal charismatic church. That there is something very sociopathic about the whole nature of the church. We are self-absorbed, the institution. There's this idea of grandiosity. There is this, if you are disloyal to the institution, we're going to get you. If you in any way bring embarrassment, it's going to be brought back on you. So with that in mind, then, has the church that we know, and of course we've got a myriad of experiences between us with different sectors of the church. Has the church itself become narcissistic, become a system and an environment that is conducive for and fuels and just really brings up to the surface those traits and tendencies that may inherently be within us?
Let me flip it this way and say the culture is narcissistic.
Okay.
This is documented that it is becoming increasingly narcissistic. As I deal with us, because I'm starting to deal with us as an oppressed people, not just using the rubrics of white science alone to diagnose our people. We another kind of case. And as an oppressed
so are you suggesting that the discipline may inherently be racist?
I'm saying that every system was not created for us, even the medical system. They're finding now, even within our bodies, there's certain things that's to us, there's not to other people. There's certain things to white jewelry that runs on that. There's certain things that run on the X chromosome that men get that women don't get, that we have not looked at. We've kind of lumped everybody into one rubric. That's the narcissism of the system itself. And so our ideas and ideals of power come from those who own the system, those who are in those places who feel entitled simply because of who they are. And so in many ways, we have failed as guardsmen and prophetic people. We have failed to purge the system out of our people. And what we've done is we've duplicated the same exact system and the same exact models for power. And so when we begin to do, Lord, we're going to get in trouble. Or maybe I'm going to get in trouble. When we begin to use, for instance, Rome as our model for our churches, Rome as the model for our bishopric, then almost by default, those positions and hierarchy, which ain't African at all. We're circular people, and we have hierarchies within the circle where we're linear. But hierarchy is top down. And so everything that we have begun to look at, we have begun to model the ways of our oppressor, and we want the power that we perceive that they have. We want the money. We want the stage. We want all of this. And so social media is only exacerbating it. So as we have copied from other people, then now we are copying their models of leadership, which lends themselves to narcissism. We're not sure what come first, the chicken or the egg. We don't know if you narcissist, so you're drawn to the profession, or you have narcissistic tendencies and the profession is drawing you. And so as a result, my bishop, we have leaders who feel entitled, leaders who are extremely authoritarian, leaders who almost take the place of God, not being indwelled by God or God being in them ruling. They literally almost take the place of God, who exploit their people. Now we're doing to our own people what is done to us. It is a type of internalized oppression. And when you marry that to trauma and our people being ill-defined, because we'd have been called everything, you know, so it kind of hit us different. And one of the first places that we can get it is, number one, in the home if we're the male, and we use religion to do that, and number two, in the church, because we can't get it nowhere else unless we are willing to go through those systems and be hazed in those systems and sell our soul to those systems. So then the pulpit becomes the place of breeding narcissism. You know, all of the go ahead, preach, we love our pastor, all of that. And it becomes a place, if it is unchecked or it is bishop led and ain't no checks and balances there, then it is unlimited, unharnessed power. And that's dangerous for the best of us, even the most mature of us.
Wow. And so then that, you're sitting in the morning, you said so much. If you all are just coming in, hit that share button. Moses, God has to take him out of the system. 40
Yes,
years,
sir.
and this is 40 years before, of course, with the children of Israel.
Come
to
on.
detox him. So then here's the question then, Dr. Hyman, here then also becomes the problem. How do we detox from the system when we are still in the system? I've been saying that one of the things that I believe, glory to God, that God did and has done and used the last couple of years of this pandemic to do, while so many have had to be physically displaced, separated,
Yes.
is to detox the soul of God's people from the system, which is why I believe now on the other side of this, as we are coming to the other side of this, there is a heightened sense of not just awareness, but a sense of prophetic boldness to be able to speak out of that awareness, to acknowledge these imbalances. So you said this, the inherent power imbalance of the monarchical episcopacy, right? Where there are no presbyterial forms of government, no checks and balances, where there is just that singular voice of authority. Once they have said it, God has said it, and whatever they have done, God has in fact done. Does it make our churches, and you answered that already, more predisposed to narcissism in the pulpit? And if so, we got a whole bunch of detoxing and decolonizing to do.
Absolutely. And this is where we are, prophet. We are at the place now where God has to, he just has to raise up voices that will, according to Malachi, sit
Glory.
as a refiner's fire, purifying the sons of Levi. And so many of us have not had enough of a wilderness experience. We've not had enough of processing before we have occupied seats. Many times, the more damaged we are internally, the more we desire that seat. And when we get it, we are very often angry and disappointed because we thought the seat was going to be the antidote for all of the stuff in here that never been dealt with, never been processed, never been identified, never nothing. And so the season and the timing for God allowing leaders We talk about Yeshua, not one of his bones is broken. We have leaders who are broken, their bones are broken. We can't bring God no lambs and they all jacked up. Well, we've been allowed to serve in those conditions, but the era for that has shut. We are in a middle passage. We are in a wilderness going into a new era, and we cannot go into that new era that is going to be characterized for our people by justice and by righteousness. We cannot go into Canaan, what God has promised our ancestors that died in the promise. We can't go in there broke up and toe up like this. So we need those voices now that God says in Malachi, when this refiner comes and he purifies the sons of Levi, and he turns the hearts of the fathers back to the children, and all of this that breeds the pathology. He says, then the Lord whom ye seek will suddenly come back into his temple. And so we are praying now that those prophetic and apostolic voices, that God would authorize whomever he shall and whomever he will, that has the experience and the expertise, but who is also part of that oppression, also part of people who have done their work to begin healing and mending themselves. Those are the people that God is going to use in this hour. And so it's almost hard to heal in the ring and you still getting hit. So you're right. It presents a problem that we're gonna have to pray, as old folks say, a prayer we ain't prayed, so that we have the strategies to begin to deal with our people and to begin to deal with leadership. And it starts with saying, God, I'm jacked up. I know I'm jacked up. So this is the hour and the season for mending, but we must confront what we have covered as a people for so long.
Yeah. You know, you said something. I think one of the things that makes that work even more difficult. Jeremiah chapter number 5.
Come on.
31. The prophet said, the prophets prophesy lies, the priests rule by their own authority. But here's the issue, and my people love to have it so.
My people love it.
Yeah. There's a measure of intoxication with the spirit of the oppressor that we now have embodied, because finally we got some piece of authority of our own. And so then when God is raising up prophets who he has brought out of the wilderness to begin to speak to these things, well, now the people don't know what to do. The people become a defense, because all we have known, we have been born into a church culture that is so inherently narcissistic and abusive that we protect that culture, that we protect those who carry that culture out. Listen, if you're just coming on, tag 3 people in the comments, hit the share button. We're having a conversation tonight, and I'm telling you, by faith, God is getting ready and is freeing his church. So, Dr. Hyman, you've done some extensive research on this again whole conversation discussion. Share with us what your research showed, and your research that is being used so broadly now. Share with us what your research showed.
Okay, I did correlation, kind of finding a relationship between two things, a relationship between authoritarianism and narcissism among really clergy, but I use seminarians because the school had a broad range of males, females, Baptists, Methodist, Pentecostal, and it was an easy place. It was around the corner from my house. But we wanted to look at, I started this as a master's thesis when I was working on my master's in clinical psych at Virginia State under Dr. Florence Farley. And I did the study between the Black seminary and the white seminary to see if, number one, we were any less or more narcissistic than the people who are in power, who are entitled because of their whiteness, to see who was more authoritarian, us or them, and to see if this kind of clergy position fuels that. And so my research at the doctoral level was a jump off of that. And so what we looked at differences between first year students because the MDiv program, we did it at Virginia Union, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology, of which I am a graduate, and a former employee. So I did it on my own people. Okay, I got a little award for that.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we began to look at that and to see if they were any more narcissistic, leaving a 3-year program that is built on servanthood, the servant leader model, if it made any difference or not, where there are subtle differences between males and females. And unfortunately, what we found out was they were no less narcissistic coming out of school than they were the 3 years that they were in it. We found some changes in terms of authoritarianism, which is a little different than authoritative. Authoritarianism is basically I rule, my rule, because I said so. Don't buck me. And we found personality correlates between those two pathologies, those two personality types. And we also found that males tended to be a little more narcissistic than females. And some females were a little more authoritarian, kind of, because I said so. That's kind of how many of us were raised. There were not many differences between denomination, with some slight differences in the Pentecostal realm, and some slight differences, not significant differences, but some slight differences between Pentecostal, less among charismatics because they don't identify with any denomination. So, but your charismatic churches tend to be headed by one senior leader, and they're usually independent. So there's a little more of a proclivity there because perhaps because the checks and balances are not there.
And then in looking at the differences between your white seminarians and your black seminarians, what did you see there?
Now that was research in 1992 when I first did it, but we found we did a seminary here that was predominantly white, a seminary here that was predominantly black. We found that for the most part, there was a statistically significant difference in the amount of narcissism. We didn't just look for the personality disorder, but traits of narcissism. Whites reported more narcissism than blacks, and blacks reported slightly more authoritarianism than whites.
Wow.
Now, I think if I did this over, I don't know, because they may be more narcissistic because of the attack that's coming on their image, their constitution, their laws, their behavior. Everything now is under scrutiny. And so we may tend to see more narcissism. But from one study to the next, we saw an increasing rise in narcissism in the culture overall.
Wow. Listen, y'all, if you are not following Apostle Hyman, you need to do that right now. All right. You need to do that right now. We're getting ready to transition over to Clubhouse.
Bishop, let me
go ahead.
Let me put a caveat here. Here's one of the reasons why I did the studies in the first place. For the most part, this whole mental health thing for us has been taboo. Since the pandemic, we are talking about it more and more. More and more preachers are doing their work towards. A lot of them are doing doctoral work in the area of mental health. They're putting mental health things in places. So we're having the conversation as we are. But what sparked me to do it is, for the most part, our people come to our clergy when they got issues. Okay, they're not going to traditional therapists.
Right.
We're just starting to do that, as we've mixed and integrated. We're just starting to do that. If our people are coming to us,
right,
and we're more jacked up than the people,
Right.
then that's another kind of health hazard. Or if they are coming to us, and this may be a bit of a sore spot for many of us, if they're coming to us and we are narcissistic, what's to stop us from exploiting their weakness?
Wow.
When they have confided in us,
Wow.
thereby bringing greater injury. And now we got to cover it because it's part of the culture. And there is merit in covering. There's merit in not putting your business in the street. There's merit in it, but it need to be balanced in it too. Okay. Right. So if they're coming to us and we're doing all of that and we're abusing them from the mic, we are, if they rise up in our congregation and the oil is on David and Saul gonna kill David in front of them people because it's all about image and power, that perceived need for power. And we can't begin to discuss how much damage has been done because we in our trauma have been gravitated to our leaders who many times are not qualified, trained, or anointed to handle that. That's why we got doctors and all kinds of other stuff. But when they're coming to us and then we're damaging on top of the damage, and then that and it just travels from one church to another, so that we have as many narcissists in the pews who attack leadership because they've been jacked up somewhere else. It is a very ugly, vicious cycle. And we're going to have to pray a prayer we ain't prayed to determine how to begin to break some of this.
We're going to have to pray a prayer we haven't prayed and do a work we have not done.
You're talking, sir.
We're going to have to pray a prayer we haven't prayed and work we have not done. Listen, two things I want us to do. If you're just coming on, hit the share button right now. It's 221 of you. Hit the share button. Tag 3 people in the comments. We're getting ready to transition to part 2 of this conversation to let you all have some time of Q&A. But before we leave off of Facebook, we have received insight, revelation, information, understanding tonight that for many of us, we've not heard and or received before. And we want to honor the vessel that insight, revelation, and information is coming out of. Apostle, what is your Cash App?
$. Thank you, Bishop. $ S.J. Hyman.
$ S.J. Hyman. I'm putting it in the comments right now. I want everybody right now. Let's show Apostle Hyman that we appreciate, number one, the work that she has done to be in position to lead us through the work we haven't done and the prayer we haven't prayed. All right. So everybody do that right now. And then I'm posting in the comments the link to the clubhouse. All right. The clubhouse room. Everybody can click that. We're going to go there. You'll be able to dialogue and ask questions for a bit. We're not going to keep the woman of God all night. She just came off of a prayer meeting right before this, had to pull herself back together to be able to come and to do this tonight. So again, $ S.J. Hyman. Everybody right now, it's 241 of you. Don't eat and not honor the table you ate from. All right. Don't eat and not honor the table. It's a law. It's a principle we have received of her spiritual. Let's give of our natural. All right. Everybody do that right now. $ S.J. Hyman. Do that right now.
SHYMAN.
HYMAN. It's pinned. You all will see it pinned right at the bottom of the chat. Do that now. And then the link is there. If you're already following me on Clubhouse, or you're part of the Safe House Unmuzzled Clubhouse, the room is already open and we are transitioning over there now. Apostle Hyman, thank you. I'm going to let you go ahead so that you'll be over there already, and we'll continue the discussion there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bishop. I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank everybody for tuning in.
All right. Thank y'all. So again, meet us on Clubhouse right now. Go to your Cash App. Let's give to Dr. Hyman and show again our appreciation for it. If you want to ensure that you always get notified when we're having these kinds of conversations, I want you to text the word integrate to the number 54244. All right. Text the word integrate to the number 54244. Of course, we are in planning stages of our Integrate conference or retreat that we're going to be having in Houston, Texas, where we're going to be doing the work to bridge this work of theology and psychology. We'll have various mental health professionals who are also apostles, prophets, ministers, who have a spiritual framework through which they approach that work that will be aiding us and sharing with us. So again, text integrate, the word integrate, to the number 54244, and you'll always get notified when we're having these types of discussion. You'll be first to know about the Integrate retreat that'll be happening in Houston. You'll have first access to registration, and it will only be open for 50 people. We're going to deliberately keep it small because we're trying to do some work. We're not trying to have more church services, although we will have one, but that's not what our goal is. All right, so everybody do that right now, and then come and meet us on Clubhouse. I appreciate you all for tuning in. As always, we will be having more of these conversations in the days to come. We'll see y'all on Clubhouse.